Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. My name is Claudia Figueroa, and I am honored to be your Master of Ceremony for today's program. Distinguished guests, senior leaders, colleagues, on behalf of the Director of the Defense Information Systems Agency and Commander of the Joint Force Headquarters, Department of Defense Information Networks, welcome to the Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. We thank each of you for joining us today to celebrate the contributions and accomplishments of Hispanic Americans who have helped shape our great nation. The theme for this year's celebration is essential to the blueprint of our nation. The theme invites us to reflect on the immense impact Hispanic Americans have held in building our nation. We hope you enjoyed today's program. Introducing our guest speaker, we have our very own Director for the Development and Business Center and Senior Champion for Adelante. This is Hispanic Employee Resource Group, Mr. Stuart Timmerman.
Thank you, Claudia. Evelyn Mejil is an author, speaker, entrepreneur, and global humanitarian. She is the founder of EM Power Women 360 LLC and its philanthropic subdivision Project Hope 360. Both entities are dedicated to the personnel, social, and political advancement and empowerment of women. Before pursuing her own entrepreneurial and philanthropic endeavors, Ms. Mejil dedicated over 20 years of service in the private and public sector, working with all levels of government, community stakeholders, and leading private institutions. Her work was primarily centered in raising awareness and advancing social causes by creating systemic and legislative changes to help vulnerable populations around the world. Her most recent achievements include concluding a 2-year global tour of 23 countries in which she shared her time and expertise to numerous humanitarian causes, originating her documentary series project, Her Story, authoring her first book, The Women in the Mirror, A Survivor's Journey into the Authentic Self, and launching Power Women 360 LLC and Project Hope 360, dedicated to the empowerment of women globally. She has served in countless leadership roles, including President of New Jersey Children's Alliance Board of Trustees, Chair of the Advocacy and Policy Committee for the New Jersey Children Alliance, Chair of a Foreign Policy and Practices on Human Trafficking Committee for the New Jersey Coalition for Human Trafficking, and a number of different areas that I encourage you to read her entire bio that's in the program today. Very impressive. I'm very pleased that Ms. Mejil has taken the time to spend some of the short time with us today. So without further delay, Ms. Evelyn Mejil.
Here with everybody. So I'm going to say it again. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I felt the energy at that time. See, there's a big difference. I was just sharing how intimidating it is to be here. If you don't work here, right, this can be very intimidating. And we are at the Department of Defense. You see, you guys are so immune to it all, right? You're like, yeah, and? Okay. I was just like, coming in here, and I was asked to come and speak to you guys. I don't have a lot of time, so I just really wanted to leave. And I have to say, it's such an honor, such a privilege. And I just want to say thank you. I'm very, very grateful to spend this time just having a conversation. A little conversation about, some people that we call Hispanic, Latinos, Latinx. I can't keep up, right? But I know that we are very, very present. And I know that is urging everyone to pay attention. And there's a reason for that. So what I want to talk about is a little bit of like, the history and why we're here. And so I started with 1988, and I would love for everybody to participate because when I say we're here because of what happened in 1988, what happened in 1988? Anybody know? A bill was passed so that we can celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. Yeah. Somebody said, this is important. We really need to, start talking about the contribution, right, of Hispanic and Latinos. I do really bad with microphones. But, okay. So, I don't know, can you hear me better with this one? Oh, okay. So I like to start with a quote. And I want to start with this one here, right? It says, when people rely on surface appearance and false racial stereotypes rather than in-depth knowledge of others at the level of the heart, mind, and spirit, their ability to assess and understand people accurately is compromised. And I think that's what happens, especially when we talk about cultures, when we deal with race, and we deal with sensitive issues, that it really challenges us to look beyond the surface. And something like, talking about Latinos or Hispanics or understanding us, leave it to us to try to understand our own heritage, right? It's very complex, diverse, it's rich, it's full of so many different things. So I can't even imagine what it's like from an outside perspective looking in and trying to understand. And what history has taught us a little bit is that when we don't understand something, we fear it. And when we fear something, our defenses go up. And when our defenses go up, our defense system kind of, right? It just triggers into action. And that starts to create a division, a separation of sorts. And that's part of the stuff that's happened. So today I just want to talk a little bit about, let's take a closer look at the fingerprints in the fabric of the United States of America. And I just wanted to kind of refresh, our knowledge of history and, really what is the contribution of Hispanics in the United States of America. So I go back to this, Hispanic Heritage Month. When we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, Hispanic means that you just come from a country that speaks Spanish, right? Versus Latino, which means that you come from a Latin American country. But if we're just talking, when we do Hispanic Heritage Month and we're talking about people, we're not really just talking about Hispanics, we're also including Latinos. But yet we kind of lump it all together, right? And we just think that, hey, let's do a checklist here. Let's do, the 10 top contributions of Hispanics in America, and let's talk about that for the entire month. Let's saturate this month with this information, and then we're going to move on. But the thing is that it's not the way it really works. You see, Hispanics or Latinos have been part of the fabric of America since its birth. You understand? So when we're actually talking about Hispanic Heritage Month, we're not just talking about Hispanics in general. We're not talking about a class of race or a people that are outside of the America as a whole, right? We're actually talking about the heritage of the United States of America. And yet the word contribution somehow suggests that we are not a part of the whole, that we are somehow different, that we somehow stand here and we contribute to this. But we don't. We partake. We are included in every single aspect of the country. We are included and we are part of every single detail that means the history of the United States of America. Regardless if you talk about Hispanics, so let's just, go a little bit with the dates. I just want to, like I said, refresh history a little bit. Everybody with me so far? Yes? Okay. I still would love to let go of the microphone. It makes me feel like, oh, he is going to do it. Yes. Are you going to help me here? You put a lot of pressure on me. You said you better be good today. He did. He said, listen, we have high expectations. You better deliver. I was like, what's your name, sir? That's how that interaction happened. Wait, you can't turn it on? You see? This is what you do. You create expectations, and then you put roadblocks so that I don't deliver. But I'm going to deliver. Just for that, I'm going to deliver. So we're going to go into this timeline. Anybody can tell me what happened in 1513? Can anybody tell me what happened in 1562? So Christopher Columbus was when? 1492. That's what we know, right? When we look at the dates, we look, okay, how many of you guys know that Christopher Columbus never actually landed in the mainland? I knew this was a very smart group of people. You see? That's why I thought you knew what these dates meant. In 1513, Juan Ponce de Leon actually got to the Americas. He was the first one to land in the mainland. He was considered the one that discovered, anybody knows? Florida, right? So here comes this man. By the way, where was he from? Spain, which means that he is? Oh, interesting. Look at that. The first man that lands in the mainland is Hispanic. And yet, we always look at Hispanic Heritage Month, right? And we'll look at some slides later as to like, oh, what did these people contribute? Yes, we gave you Ricky Martin. But we gave so much more to this country, right? And so in 1562, here comes this other man called Menendez. He was the first Spanish conquistador, right? That comes in a voyage and he settles in San Agustin. Who knows San Agustin is, right? Florida. It's the first European settlement in the United States, what we call now the United States of America. And what's really interesting about these dates is that this voyage comes out in 1562, 1565, right? Here comes, a little decree by the king and queen of Spain and says, we're going to declare this land for us. And guess what? The first European language ever spoken in the United States of America was Spanish. Very interesting, right? And as we try to celebrate so that we can unify, because these celebrations are meant to create unity, so that we can understand that everybody has a contribution in this country, that everybody has something that has brought forth, right, value, so that we can truly call this the United States of America, right? And so here comes this settlement, and actually it still exists. So the very first European settlement happened in Florida by a Spanish man who comes here, and he establishes this place and starts to move west. And so what we know now as the south of, the United States of America, which is, right, Florida, Texas, California, and going all the way there, we're going to see these people are going to be the west right here. West. I'm an east kind of girl because I'm from New York. So I like this here. But we went all the way to the west, and guess what? For 3 centuries, all that was spoken was Spanish. Isn't that interesting? I'm just saying. I find that interesting. Anybody else finds that interesting? So we have Juan Ponce de Leon, who's the first one to actually step foot in America. We have Pedro Menendez de Aviles, names you want to remember, right? Because he was the first one to ever become governor of these lands, right? He comes, with the ruling of Spain, becomes governor of Florida. He's in charge of actually, dispersing the lands and, governing the lands and making laws and making sure that there's growth and there's, relationships with everybody else. Now, we don't know, we might know, and we will know a little bit what happened later, but that was his, orders at the time. Juan Miralles. Anybody knows that name? Okay, so I'm going to give you a little hint. He was born 1713, died in 1780. What was happening during that time? I know everybody knows what's happening at that time. I'm at the Department of Defense. I am at the department. I know everybody knows what happened at that time. Anybody? Oh my goodness. You know what? I'm going to say that everybody here is just very shy. Oh, what happened? It's a conspiracy. They're trying to shut down my presentation. What was happening? Between 1743 and 1783 in the United States of America. Well, the American Revolutionary War. Yes, very good. So during this year, here comes this guy, who also, by the way, is from Spain, and guess what? Hispanic. And it forms a really great relationship with, anybody? George Washington. Right? He forms this really great relationship with George Washington. George Washington says, we need the help from Spain because we want to make sure that we win this war. We want to make sure that we become independent, and we can't do this alone. We need help. So, hey, hello, Spain. We need your help. And so there's all this documentation about this man who helped George Washington during the American Revolutionary War and actually helped win the war. So much so that when this war was over, George Washington himself organized a parade in New York City for this man. That's how the Puerto Rican parade got started. It didn't, but I'm going to say that from now on. So he organizes this parade and says, we have to celebrate this man because he ended up going undercover, right? Spain gives him all this money to be a rich merchant, go to the British and say, we are going to, do these trades with you, and you just have to meet us in Florida, in San Agustin, and guess what? It was an ambush. So here they are, this guy was, basically a spy, right? And he's doing all this stuff. And it says that he became so enthused with the Revolutionary War that he gave his fortune to the war. And he made sure that he would go to Spain and come back, not one time, not two times, but in several voyages to make sure that they were bringing in weapons, that they were bringing in people, that they were bringing in all the resources that the Americans needed to win the war. Now, if you want to stop there as far as what's the contribution of Hispanics, we can, but we won't. Right? Bernardo Galvez. He was the one who took over after Miralles passed away. And why? Because there was a lot of conversation between Spain and the Americans. And they were like, listen, we have interests because we have, settlers in Florida and all of these different lands, and we want to make sure that we don't lose that. So we will help you win, but you need to make sure that we don't lose our lands. You have to make sure that we don't lose our investment in this new land because we are very, very much interested in continuing to expand our empire because that's what the Spanish, right? Reign did. That's what they did. They just wanted to take over, hence the word conquistador. They just love to conquer. And so there was this relationship because why? Spain was at war with England and then say, hey, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, so we're going to help you win. So Miralles passes away. But guess what? Not before he helps George Washington draft the Treaty of Paris. Isn't that interesting? How many of you knew that? Everybody raise your hand because now you know it, so now you do. And I know that you're not going to forget this, right? Yes? No? Oh, you're cheating. What happened in 1607? 1620? All right, 1776. Declaration of Independence. 1783? The Treaty of Paris. But you know what's really interesting? Every single time we have conversations about this, people do remember 1776, Declaration of Independence. They remember 1783, the Treaty of Paris. Anybody remembers what happened in 1620? We all did this in elementary school. We were, drawing little crafts. What? The Mayflower. She gets a prize. Can you make sure she gets a prize? I don't have any. But she gets a prize. Yes. The Mayflower, right? So 1607, Jamestown, right? So the first colonists land in Jamestown in 1607. Then comes the Mayflower, Plymouth Rock, 1620. But what's really interesting is that a lot of us start to learn or even remember history as back as 1776 and maybe 1620. when the Mayflower landed. And yet, I've been talking about great contributions that started as back as 1513. And if we want to go back to Christopher Columbus, we want to say that it was really the Spanish crown who funded his voyages here. Right? Again, Hispanics. But, we're going to dismiss Christopher Columbus for now. No personal reason. Yeah, right. Latinos. We celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, and we never separate Latinos from Hispanics. But okay, if we really want to talk about history and we really want to take it back to what contribution Latinos have had in this country, we got to go back here. This is where we go. To the Aztec Empire, the Inca Empire, the Mayan Empire. Do you know why? You will never meet a Latino that does not have his heritage rooted in this indigenous people. Right? And people, a lot of people know that Latinos are, right? We are just a mix of a little bit of everything. It's like Latinos are just the children of the world. Come all, and then here comes a Latino. Right? Just a little bit of everything, and all good. But we don't come without them. And so what's really interesting is that as many as, like, all those states that I've given you, right? I've pretty much told you about contributions of Hispanics, and now I'm telling you about the contributions of Latinos. And Latinos do not exist without our indigenous heritage. So that means that all of this and what comes from the Hispanics and the Latinos, of the people from Spain, they're all part of our heritage, our history, our makeup, and therefore the history of the United States of America. All of this dates way, way back in 1988, when we decided that we were going to start celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, right? And so what's really interesting about this is that when we divide the history of a place, we also divide a people. We also divide and create separation from the people that had this contribution as well. The fact that we have 1 month to celebrate, African Heritage Month and, African History Month and Hispanic Heritage Month, 1 month to really discuss the beauty and of the contributions that are not something that is outside, contributing to the whole, but part of the whole itself. So we're really actually celebrating our history, our heritage. That's what we're really celebrating. So what happened in 1848? Mexico relinquishes its land to the United States of America. All of this happened before it even got the land. So guess what? All of this history is part of the very foundation of what is the United States of America. You understand? To understand, the history, we can't begin by just simply, when I say the history, I mean the history of the United States of America. We can't begin in 1776 when the Declaration of Independence was written. There's so much more. By nature, this land has been multicultural from the very beginning. By nature, from the very beginning, we have had gifts from so many different races, ethnicities, parts of the world that have created what is today the United States of America. So when we celebrate, it's not necessarily about us and them. It's about we the people, right? And some of the contributions, by the way, if going back to the indigenous, heritage is too much, they are known for having a very vast knowledge and very, and you may absolutely like this, because their engineering was actually one of the things that fascinated the world. Their knowledge of engineering, agriculture, irrigation, architecture, physics, astronomy. These people were advanced people.
They were people that understood more than just the present time, but the future. The Inca Empire actually, reigned for over 1,000 years in peace. Until, of course, we decided that we were going to have war and conquer lands. But all of this beauty that was birthed in these lands, it's our heritage. It's our history. So it's not just Hispanic Heritage Month, but it's the heritage of the United States of America, which is a very big difference. Does it feel different to have a different perspective when we have this conversation? Does it? Or is it just me? Okay. I'm going to take the few yeses that I see around. But does it feel different? Does it make you think, interesting? It does, right? It should. It should. And it should also make you feel proud because guess what? We're also celebrating you this month, you see? We're all big one happy family. But we can't think of it, in this term because you know what? And I write this here, there is a fundamental difference between believing that we are a British-derived country that tolerates, incorporates, or absorbs others and opens its borders to the world, and knowing that we have been a multicultural country since the inception of the United States of America. That's a very big difference. Very big difference. Right? Oh, we're very tolerant and accepting and open. No. We have been marching together. We have been warring together. We have been birthing and dying together since the beginning of the history of this country. And that's a very different way to see the history, our heritage. It's not about us and them, but we, the people. And so when we look at, Hispanic Heritage Month, it's very interesting to be able to look back and say, oh, wow. This is just one layer of the beautiful history of this country, right? Than just saying, let's just see, the Cardi B's and the Jennifer Lopez of the world, and let's celebrate Latinos. I'm Puerto Rican. I celebrate my girl, but still, it's been a lot more than just that, right? And we didn't just come in the scene when Jennifer Lopez ended up, on the 6 or whatever, right? There's a difference when we can connect in a different way. There's a very big difference. We start looking at each other as just part of one race, one human race, one country. You're my brother, you're my sister, right? Instead of us and them. But I do like this quote, Eduardo Galeano. He says, history never says goodbye. History says, see you later. And so in a lot of ways, Latinos are actually thought of as the new kid on the block. Latinos are the new kid on the block. They're on the rising. We were here from the beginning. But if you want to say that we're on the rising, I'll take it too. So a little fun facts about the rising or the new kids on the block. 1 in 6 people in the United States are Hispanic or of Hispanic descent. 18% of the population are Hispanic/Latino. And by 2016, there'll be 28% of the population, the largest minority group. Latino small businesses increased by 47% within 10 years. The general population, as far as small businesses, it decreased by 2%. Hispanic Latinos account for $2.1 trillion of the consumer power. Latino small businesses employ 2.5 million workers. We make up 11% of the electoral vote. The new kids on the block are doing something else, huh? I guess we did say, see you later. And now we're making sure that, hey, take a little notice. According to the Latino Donor Collective, U.S. Latino GDP report, says that Latino GDP grew by 28% faster than the rest of the U.S. economy between 2010 and 2017. Other findings include that if Latino GDP were its own country, it would be the 8th largest economy in the world. And the Latino GDP will be behind the majority of U.S. economy growth in the coming years. And those are just the new kids on the block. And so this here, over 1 million Hispanics/Latinos in just these 10 states. These 6 states have the most electoral votes. The impact of Latinos, and our vote, and how it has been changing the culture of how we speak and how we take notice of certain population and how we include them in certain issues. It has increased because now there is a demand. There's a demand in everything. We are present in everything. But the thing is that it shouldn't be, something that, wow, this is what the Latinos are doing. I go back to saying, this is what we are doing. This is how our nation is rising. This is how we are just evolving, right? And our evolution should be our revolution. Not fighting wars against each other, but understanding and knowing that the passion that lies within the people of the United States of America can do great things and are doing great things, and we are great things. There's a big difference in that, right? Am I losing you guys? No. Okay. So I know that I have to wrap up, right? It's like I hear, wait, you have like 5 minutes left. We are going to wrap up. It's okay. So I'm going to make it fun. Celebrities. Look, that's what we know, right? Yeah, we gave you Ricky Martin. Right? Let's make it light because everybody wants to go back to work with a nice smile. Go ahead, guys. We gave you Jennifer Lopez and Cardi B as well. How many of you know that we gave you Wonder Woman? How many of you know that she's Mexican descent? How many knew that? We gave you Wonder Woman. How awesome is that? Right? I mean, seriously. I'm like, listen, I just felt like I just needed to put that slide up and be like, we gave you Wonder Woman. But we gave so much more music. And who is this guy? Guillermo Gonzalez. Anybody can tell me? Yes? And what's that? I mean, I gave you a clue. Oh, wait a second. He's my engineering guy. What did he give the United States? What did he give us? Color TV. Yes. Of Mexican descent. I know, right? Applause for that. Can you imagine if we were still watching black and white TV? The past, the present, and the future. If we look at the Olmec tribe, do you know what they gave us? It was so good, and we can't live without. Ladies, I'm going to give this to the ladies. Do you know what they gave us that I feel like we can never live without? Yes! Chocolate! Are you kidding me? Who wants to live without chocolate? Anybody wants to live without chocolate? Where is this? Look at this. Almond Joy, a Twix, a Snickers bar. I'm going to steal this one. The Olmec. Thank you very much, my beautiful tribe. Can we really live without this? I don't think so. And I got the Snickers bar because I'm hungry. You know what that means. The monster's coming out, so. Nobody's seen that commercial? I thought I was going to get a laugh. No. The conquistadores, as we said, mirages, right? Who helped actually win the American Revolutionary War. I don't know what happened. Oh, there you go. So from our past to our very present, a woman that stands for freedom, equality, justice, and humanity for all. When you read that, what does that sound like to you? Right? And our Pledge of Allegiance and our Constitution. I mean, right? And that's the present. But guess what? The future. Who knows this man? Orlando Figueroa. He's a Puerto Rican man. I love it because I really want to take a trip to Mars. And I'm Puerto Rican. He headed 2 of the most successful missions to Mars. The very first 2 and the most successful, the Opportunity and Spirit. It was led by Orlando Figueroa, a man born in Puerto Rico and came here and has devoted his entire career to our future. So you see, I don't say this with much modesty. We are the past, we are the present, and we are the future. Right? But you know what this shows us? Opportunity and spirit. We have an opportunity to change our perspective. We have an opportunity to change how we look at things. We have an opportunity to see us as we the people instead of us and them. We have an opportunity to stop looking at things as a contribution, but a part of. We have an opportunity to allow our spirits to rise in a place of feeling pride and honor and privilege to be in such a diverse and beautiful mix of people. You know? And it's like one of those messy paintings that when you look very closely, it could be really messy and you can't understand it. But if you just take a little step back, just a few steps back, and look at it from a distance, change your perspective, it can be really beautiful. Right? And so that's what we are. We, the people of the United States of America. And I found this, and I thought it was really interesting. As you say, when we read that, it does sound like America. The American Creed by William Tyler. I believe in the United States of America as a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, whose just power are derived from the consent of the governed, a democracy and a republic, a sovereign nation of many sovereign states, a perfect union, one and inseparable, established upon those principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity, for which American patriots have sacrificed their lives and fortunes. Does that sound like what I've been talking about? Does it sound like everything that we've been discussing today? Because that is our heritage. Those are the fingerprints in the fabric of America. And if we look at the fabric of America, very, tangible, and we look at the star, I look at the meaning of the colors, right? Red signifying hardness and valor, white signifying purity and innocence, blue signifying vigilance, perseverance, and justice. That is what we have. The fingerprints on the fabric of America. So I'm going to leave you guys with this. One of my favorites, Dolores Huerta. We can't let people drive wedges between us because there is only one human race. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ms. Evelyn, for coming to speak with us today and sharing your journey to inspire and encourage us to strive for inclusion, honesty, and openness, and to include us as we are the people. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Timmerman will now present our guest speaker with a token of appreciation.
So this presentation is really kind of the wrap-up of the Hispanic Heritage Observation Month. The ERG always has activities for folks. Salsa dancing, I think you did it again this year. They have potluck luncheons throughout the month. In fact, they actually have them throughout the year. And the one thing that I really enjoy about those potluck lunches, you come down the wall of the portraits of the former directors of DISA, and you start smelling all of these great smells. Evelyn, you talked about celebrity and music. Well, the food is just fantastic, too. So I'd like to thank you very much for your presentation and taking your own time to come down here from New York. We really appreciate it. It was very entertaining. And we'd like to present you with a token of our appreciation for your continued support with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Special observances, such as today's National Hispanic Month program, are conducted to enhance cross-cultural awareness among all service members, civilian employees, and our communities. These observances recognize the achievements and contributions made by various segments of our society. On behalf of Adelante, this is Hispanic Employee Resource Group, and the Office of Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion, we appreciate you joining us today. We would like to also take this opportunity to express our appreciation to the Director of the Development and Business Center, Mr. Timmerman. Thank you for taking your dedicating time out of your busy schedule to support This is Hispanic Adelante ERG. Another special thank you to our distinguished guest speaker, Ms. Mejil,